If I had to describe this build in 3 sounds, it would be... So, you interested? Hello, my fellow adventurers! Today I bring you something that I am so immensely both happy with and proud of, and honestly it's something that I am A, shocked it actually works, and B, blown away at just how well it works. So let me lay the groundwork for you as you enjoy the carnage that you are watching unfold. I like barbarians, right? I like the straightforward, simple, go brrr, and then hit things, and that's cool. But they're kind of limited in what you can combine them with, unless you choose another sort of martial class, and you do more weapon-based stuffs. But there's not a lot of magicalness to them, obviously, because you can't cast spells nor concentrate when you're raging. And I wanted to kinda see if I could do some sort of infusion into Barbarian that made sense and wasn't just jank. So I was having a think, and then I remembered one of my favourite subclasses in all of D&D, the Spore Druid. And yes, the Druid spells are one thing, but the actual Spore core mechanics, using your reaction to deal necrotic damage with the spores, using your reaction to raise spore zombies, using symbiotic entity to do extra necrotic damage and get loads of extra health. And if you combine that extra health with a wildheart bear barbarian, well, suddenly it's double the amount of extra health. Is that doable while raging? Can you do your sporey, mushroomy goodness? And the answer is, yeah, you can. So we can end up in a world where, thanks to Spore Druid with one particular special piece of armor, we can be a raging barbarian with the extra symbiotic entity health, doing all this bonus necrotic damage, double attacking, reckless attacking, taking half damage, so symbiotic entity lasts twice as long, while throwing out spores, while raising zombies, while hasting yourself every turn, while confusing enemies and turning them into mindless, laughing, empty husks, and mass poisoning everyone around you, while also being massively buffed up before you go into the rage from the druid spells of choice, while of course having the ability to just play as a druid with all of the spells, but also a fantastic melee damage output without raging. It's shocking, as I said, how well this has come together. The extra oomph and survivability from Spore shenanigans while rampaging around, smacking with reckless attack, raging goodness, is so, most importantly, fun. And given it so confidently soloed this group on Tactician, certainly powerful too. It also has some seriously potent battlefield control that you yourself are immune to, that really is the icing on this angry mushroom cake. Disclaimer, I do not recommend eating an angry mushroom cake, but if you would like to make your own angry mushroom cake, well, there's no better assistant pastry chef than Withers, and God, I'm really committing to this bit. In any case, let's go through this, and yeah, it actually, you end up looking pretty neat if you have your actual armor on, but we'll get to that, assuming you actually dye it so it all matches. In any case then, we begin with the Barbarian. If you are doing this from level 1, you want to do 3 levels of Barbarian, then all of the Druid, then the rest of the Barbarian, but if you're doing it post sort of level 10, 11, like I am, well, follow what I'm about to tell you. So, Barbarian, check. This is where you want your stats to end up if you aren't banking on any specific items. We want a little bit of wisdom so we can actually do the druidy things as we are not raging, and then the constitution, the strength with a little bit of dex left over for the Barbarian side of things. We can dump jump, int, and charisma. However, if you are in Act 3 and have access to the items that we will be using, this is what I would recommend, as we'll be using the Hill Giant Strength gloves and the Constitution amulet, so we can kind of put points everywhere else that we might need them. Still the dex and the wisdom, but then int and charisma no longer get just absolutely obliterated. Next up, then, we will go through our level. In at level 2, we stick with the Barbarian, and here we have to make a lot of decisions, such as pressing the accept button or not. We want to. Over at level 3, we get to choose our subclass and subsequently our heart. Wildheart, yes, is the way, and Bear Heart is the only choice to double our effective symbiotic entity health and to just be an unstoppable tank in general. Then we continue on the Barbarian path until we get our extra attack at level 5, as that is very important. Our feat of choice then is going to be Great Weapon Master, because we'll have Reckless Attack, we'll always be advantaged, and this just gets us an extra 10 damage, which is really good. Then the final Barbarian level gets us, as I said, that extra attack, which is so important. Then we are going to start with the Druid, and we will be sticking with the Druid the entirety of the rest of the way. So swap over, grab ourselves the Druid, and then cantrip-wise, well, choose things that you are going to find useful. I'll point out any required spells as we go along, though of course guidance is always good, as is Thorn Whip, especially early. So what we are looking for with spells then is things that we can buff ourselves with that will stay while we are raging. So, for example, Leap and Longstrider both stay and are very useful to have, so we want to have them. And then just grab what you like the look of. As we move on through, we get to choose our subclass, and as you know, we are going to favor the Spores, which will get us a lovely symbiotic entity. Then, once more, well, choose the spells that you like the look of. I like having Create Water, just so we can do some lightning-y combos outside of raging with it, but it's obviously not the focus. Over at the world of level 2 spells, well, we get one that is actually quite relevant, and that is protection from poison. We will be dropping lots of poison clouds, and having this on ourselves, and yes, it carries over into raging, makes that not a factor for us. We won't be doing any self-inflicted damage. Then we continue on, getting up to level 4, which is, of course, our next feat. And for this one, it is going to be, our friend Savage Attacker. In actual D&D, this isn't too great, but in Baldurs Gate, they have changed it a little bit so that it applies to every single attack, every dice. So when we are advantaged attacking every turn with Savage Attacker, this skyrockets our average damage output, and you really feel it. So, that is all that done. Over to level 5, where we then unlock our level 3 spells. Here, you want to very deliberately grab the following. Plant Growth, as you want to drop this before you start raging, and just have this huge area where you are in control and enemies just can't get to you. And then after that, to Call Lightning, always nice to have. So, at level 6, we get our Raise Fungal Zombies, which we can use while raging, so we get to be an angry, stabby zombie master, which is always a fun little vibe. And then, spell-wise, again, just choose what you like the look of. I will grab myself. Let's go for a little bit of a gust. And then finally, at level 7, we get our level 4 spells, of which we want to choose one in particular that's very, very key, and that is Freedom of Movement. We can put this on ourselves, and that will last into the raging and for the entirety rest of the day. We get immunity to our own difficult terrain and in general, and we can't be restrained or paralyzed, so we just continue to be this sort of unstoppable juggernaut. Woodland Being is another good use of that 4th spell slot if you don't need the Freedom of Movement, or you can get it from somewhere else, so that's worth having as well. But that is, in essence, it. Here we are then all set up. So, of course, before you start raging, you can play with all your spells as normal, hit them with the water, the ice storms, the core lightnings, summon your woodland being if you want it, use your confusion, etc. You just get to play as a level 7 Spore Druid, right? But obviously, that's not crazy, especially as we're missing the final 5 levels, but we have that Barbarian edge, which together, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So what really matters is Symbiotic Entity and then Raging, both of which we can do in a turn, as one is an action, one is a bonus action. So that's very nice. And then while Raging, we can use our reaction on Halo of Spores to do damage. We can use our reaction on Fungal Infestation to do damage. We double attack with our action, and then we get our bonus attack, Great Weapons Master attack when we kill, and essentially we have a lot to do with every resource at our disposal. But before we get into a proper how to play, let's talk gear, because it's very important. So, we have ourselves the following. Killer's Sweetheart, just to get an extra guaranteed crit, not hugely key, and I've also thrown on Ring of Regeneration, just to make you even tankier, again, not hugely key. We have the Amulet of Greater Health, so we have that 23 con, which results in a ton of health to work with, making you very hard to kill. That is really good. And the Strength Gauntlet, so we're up to 23, so we can do a hell ton of damage. Yes, that's right, the official term, a hell ton. And we do that hell ton of damage with the Legendary Greatsword, as you do double your Strength modifier in damage, along with all the other perks it has. And when it comes to Giant Form, it's obviously very useful, but just bear in mind you can't have temporary hit points from multiple sources, so weave it in between or before your Symbiotic Entity. Just being in it for the buff, though, is nice in of itself. For our boots, we've just got the extra AC while we're not wearing armor, because we won't be, and getting the brutal leap and jump distance is nice too. Cloak of the Weave, just to be there for when we do cast our spells outside of Raging, but then we get to 2 of the big boys for this setup. The first being the Shapeshifter Hat. Increase your wild shape charge by 1. That is obviously huge. Oh, and obviously, I imagine you know where to get this. It's the whole answer thing in Baldurs Gate. We have a dedicated video for it, and the House of Hope for Hill Giant Strength and Greater Health, 2 very commonly known items. This hat, then, is from Devil's Fee when you unlock the ability to see her special items by convincing her to do so in the lower city, the same place where you enter the House of Hope. So buy it from her and then enjoy an extra per long rest use of Symbiotic Entity. So let's actually talk about that real quick. This gives 28 temporary hit points. With Bear Raging taking half damage, this is effectively 56. A level 12 Spore Druid has 48 from Symbiotic Entity. So you actually have more effective symbiotic health doing this split than you do going pure Spore, and normally you do want to go pure Spore to buff Symbiotic as high as it can be. So we're not actually losing out here because of this synergy. So having 3 lots of 56 effective health to apply once per short rest is ludicrous, and takes our total health to about 300 in this build, which is a lot to get through. So, we've got everything in place. There is one final thing. This, the Armor of the Spore Keeper. I cannot express how wonderful this is, and it's what tips this build over the edge, because you can do all of the bonus special spores while raging. You buy this from the Mummy Lord in the sort of rundown house in the lower city. When you have a chat with him, he'll give you a quest to go find is a ghoul, but you can also buy from him. So once you've collected this, well, how it works is thusly. When you go into your Symbiotic Entity, which we will now do, as we can see, we have now gained 3 extra spores. These are awesome. We have the Tin Mass Spores, which will befuddle and do a bit of poison damage. Befuddling, by the way, it's hilarious. They just laugh, they wander, they can't control what they're doing. It's like a complete CC. It lasts 2 turns, and we can just make it happen. And we've got a fairly good +8 to it doing so. It's just such good control. Then we have ourselves Bibabang Spores. And I will put this down just so you can have a little look. And there we go, all nice and well. So we have our Bibabang Spores. They are just a good old 3 turns of some nice poison damage. And that's why pre-buffing with protection from poison into the Rage is nice, because then we can freely use this to stand in and not really worry about it while also damaging our enemies. So yeah, also really useful. But the big one is Haste Spores. Oh, yes. So, we put this down, and, well, we get haste. Now, it only lasts for a turn, but that's okay, because what you want to do is pop into it, grab your haste. We've now got our 2 actions to use, and that's all well and good. We pretend we use our 2 actions, and then we go all the way round through all the enemy turns, through your allies' turns. And by the way, your allies can also use this cloud, pop in and grab haste, so it's a full team haste. So your next turn, you've lost the haste, but that's okay, because run back into the haste spores, then go do your turn. We have loads of movement because of Longstrider, so we always just want to dip in and out of our haste spores at the start of all of your turns. And this lasts for such a long time, actually, on the battlefield, so you can do it multiple times, dipping in and out, getting extra attacks. Yes, you might trigger attack of opportunities, but we're so tanky that that just doesn't matter. So all of that is obviously amazing, right? But you can only do it once per long rest each, right? Except, no. If I re-symbiotic entity up, suddenly, oh, we can use all of them again. Huh. So having these special spores not just once per day, but actually 4 times each per short rest, thanks to our symbiotic entity refreshing, is brilliant. But if you want to take it a little bit further, and yes, this might be a little bit of, let's call it a bug. And by the way, how good is the wibbly wobbly casting spores animation? Like, that coming from a raging barbarian is so scary. So if we then unequip the item, oh look, we get our spores back. Huh. And yes, you can pop this on and off in combat. And then if we put it back on, oh, we get our spores back. So just a little heads up with that one. And also, don't worry about AI popping in the haste spores and the enemies getting haste. They're not clever enough to figure it out, even on Tactician. They will run through it if it's their direct path to you, but what you want to do is just pop it off to the side, somewhere the enemies have no reason to go because it's not a way to get at you, and then you just run in and out of it during each of your turns, and you won't give them the opportunity to use it. All that remains then is a little bit of a combat guide. So, before you get into a fight, if you know you are about to, you want to do the following. Give yourself Enhanced Leap, give yourself Long Strider, then give yourself protection from poison, and then finally give yourself freedom of movement, and now we are super ready to go. Then what I would recommend is getting your plant growth down in the general area you know you'll be fighting, because it will really help control everyone, and then just blast off a spell to actually start the combat, because once we start raging, that's gonna go away. Then your general first turn kind of plan should be very simple. You symbiotic entity up with your action, and then you start raging with your bonus action, protecting that health. It might as well say 56, and now you're kinda good. We can use our reaction to do a little bit of sporing, damn, and then I'm going to just stand here so the ranged people don't hurt me, even though he's going to do me a little bit of a smack, but that is fine. So the thing is, you will lose your symbiotic entity, even taking half damage if you're doing a, like this 1 versus 7. Obviously, as a caveat here, if you're playing this build just normally in a full party of 4, your Spore health will last ages because your other 3 allies are taking hits and doing things, and it's not everyone piling on you, so that's something to realize. But generally speaking, your Spores will come on and off throughout the fight. That's why we get 3 charges thanks to the hat per short rest, meaning that we can be flexible with them. So if we then get our haste spores down, as that's important, we'll put them on here in this little corner as our sort of haste den, and then we can just start attacking. We will do a lot of damage thanks to Great Weapons Master and Savage Attacker. I mean, yeah, we're just gonna one-turn Steel Watcher here. That's not bad at all now, is it? So the rest of the time, you're just using your spores, putting Bibbering on groups of enemies, putting Tin Mask on groups of enemies, using your reaction to halo them, and then rising them as fungal zombies every time you get a fresh corpse to do so. And given it's only a reaction, you can still fully beat down with your sword powers with your main actions. Every time you need the health, or before you know you're going to get a lot of attacks in, re-symbiotic entity up, and you just kind of flow between everything as you fight. There isn't really much more to say than that. It's just a really cool, flavorful, angry barbarian spore thrower that just runs around the battlefield unstoppable, buffed up, stabbing people to death with massive damage, covering everyone in poison, confusing spores, hasting yourself every turn alongside your teammates, rising zombies from the enemies that then get involved too, and you can run your zombies through the haste spores, and it really becomes overwhelming, and more than anything, it's just so entertaining. It's such a cool flavor to run with, and something that I'm very happy actually works. I hope you very much enjoyed the concept, and if you were inspired to try it yourself, I hope you have just the best of time playing it. For now then, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.